Decameron, Love Stories, The Pot of Basil. Friends, before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you never miss a new audiobook, and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you in advance. The scent of blood and basil clung to the stones of Volterra, a city perpetually holding its breath against the siege engines of the Sienese. In the house of Lamberti, the air was thick with a different kind of tension, the silence of a family holding its secrets close, like a hand over a wound. For Lisabetta, the youngest of 3 merchant brothers, the world had shrunk to the 4 walls of her chamber, and the memory of a smile that did not belong to her station. Lorenzo, their father's steward, was a man of quiet competence and humble birth, his eyes the color of rich earth after a rain, his presence the only sunlight in her gilded cage. He was the keeper of the household accounts, the organizer of their caravans, the silent force that kept the Lamberti fortune intact. And he was the secret keeper of her heart. Their love had grown not in the sun-drenched courtyards, but in the shadowy spaces between duty and desire. A brush of fingers as he handed her a ledger, a glance held a moment too long across the dinner table, a whispered conversation in the library after the candles had burned low. It was a love built on stolen moments, each one a pearl on a string of deception that grew heavier around her neck with each passing day. He didn't kiss her lips. He confessed his hunger through the careful space he left between them, a space that screamed of everything they could not have. The shipments from the south are delayed again, her eldest brother, Rinaldo, growled, stabbing at a piece of meat with his knife. His eyes, hard as flint, scanned the hall as if expecting an attack from within. The Sienese dogs tightened their noose. We must be vigilant. There are whispers of spies within our very walls. Lisabetta kept her gaze on her plate, her heart hammering. She felt Lorenzo's presence behind her chair, where he stood to give his daily report. She could feel the heat of him, the steady calm he radiated even as her brothers spoke of war and treachery. "The accounts are in order, my lord." Lorenzo's voice was a smooth, steady river flowing through the tension. "We have sufficient stores to last the winter, even with the delays." "See that it remains so," the second brother, Hugo, said, his voice a slick, oily thing. He was the strategist, the one who saw plots in every shadow. "We cannot afford any disruptions. The House of Lamberti must stand united. Our sister's upcoming betrothal to Lord Malatesta will secure our eastern flank. There is no room for error or sentiment." The word betrothal landed like a physical blow. Lord Malatesta was a man 3 times her age, his lands vast, his cruelty legendary. He was a transaction, a reinforcement for their crumbling walls. She felt the air leave her lungs. Later, in the one place they could be almost alone, the high-walled herb garden where the basil grew in fragrant, defiant profusion, she turned to him, her composure shattered. "They mean to sell me, Lorenzo, like a bolt of silk or a barrel of wine." He stood before her, his usual calm replaced by a quiet fury that made him seem taller, more dangerous. The moonlight caught the sharp line of his jaw, clenched tight. "I am not a lord," he said, his voice low and fervent. "I have no armies, but I have a heart that is yours completely. I have 2 strong hands that would build you a world if you would let me." "What world?" she cried, her voice a desperate whisper. "A cottage outside the city walls? A life looking over our shoulders, waiting for my brothers to find us? They would kill you, Lorenzo. They would call it justice for stealing their property." He reached for her then, his hands closing around her upper arms, not to hurt her, but to anchor her, to imprint the reality of his touch upon her soul. His grip was firm, his thumb stroking the soft silk of her sleeves. The contact was electric, a jolt of pure, undiluted sensation after months of agonizing restraint. She could feel the strength in his hands, the calluses earned from work, and a tremor ran through her. "Then let them try," he whispered, his face inches from hers. His breath was warm on her skin, his eyes dark pools of devotion and defiance. "I would rather die knowing I have lived one true moment with you than survive a lifetime of watching you from a distance while you wither in a marriage of convenience." He didn't kiss her. He simply held her, his forehead resting against hers, their breath mingling in the cool night air, the scent of basil rising around them like a blessing and a warning. It was a confession more intimate than any kiss, a vow sealed not with lips but with souls. In that moment, the siege, her brothers, the betrothal, it all fell away. There was only his touch, his breath, his impossible, glorious promise. But as they stood there, bound by their secret, a shadow detached itself from the archway leading back to the house. Hugo stood there, his arms crossed, a thin, cruel smile playing on his lips. He said nothing. He simply watched, his eyes missing nothing: the proximity, the charged air, the way Lorenzo's hand still held her. Then he turned and melted back into the darkness, a serpent returning to its hole. The moment was shattered, the fragile piece destroyed. Lorenzo's hands dropped, his body tensing for a fight that was not yet upon them. Lisabetta felt a cold dread seep into her bones, colder than the winter air. The bittersweet taste of their stolen moment turned to ash in her mouth. They had grasped for a piece of heaven, but in doing so, they had alerted the demons. And the demons of House Lamberti were not known for their mercy. The silence in the House of Lamberti in the days that followed was more terrifying than any shouted accusation. It was a waiting silence, a coiled serpent of unspoken knowledge. Lisabetta moved through her duties like a ghost, her brother Hugo's knowing smile haunting her every waking moment. Lorenzo, meanwhile, had been sent on a sudden, urgent mission to treat with a caravan master on the far side of the besieging Sienese lines, a perilous task that Rinaldo declared could only be trusted to their most capable steward. Lisabetta had seen the cold calculation in her eldest brother's eyes when he gave the order. It was not trust. It was a sentence. Weeks bled into a month. The first snows dusted the battlements of Volterra, and there was no word from Lorenzo. No messenger, no letter. The official story, delivered by Rinaldo with grim finality over supper, was that Lorenzo's party had been ambushed by Sienese scouts. No survivors. A tragic loss for the house. Lisabetta did not weep. She did not scream. She retreated into a fortress of silence more impenetrable than the city's own walls. Her brothers watched her, their expressions a mixture of feigned sympathy and cold satisfaction. They believed the problem had been solved. The inconvenient steward was removed. The sister would now accept her fate. But in the dead of night, a different truth came to Lisabetta. It did not come as a sound, but as a feeling, a pull deep and insistent in her soul, a thread that had not been severed. It led her from her bed, down through the sleeping house, and out into the frozen moonlit herb garden. The basil was dead, frost-kissed and brittle. Yet the feeling persisted, a silent, desperate call emanating from the earth itself. Driven by a grief that had curdled into a frantic certainty, she found a trowel. Her hands, soft and unused to labor, grew raw and bloody as she dug at the hard, cold ground at the garden's edge. where the basil had grown most thickly. The moon watched, a pale, dispassionate eye, as she scraped away the frozen soil. Her trowel hit something that was not a root, something wrapped in sodden, stained canvas. With a cry that was part sob, part triumph, she clawed at the earth, pulling the bundle free. Her trembling fingers tore at the rough fabric. Lorenzo's face, pale and beautiful in the moonlight, stared up at her. His eyes were closed, his features peaceful as if in sleep. There was no mark of violence upon him, only the pallor of death. Her brothers, ever efficient, had not left a messy corpse. They had returned him to her, cleanly and finally. A sound escaped her then, a low animal keen that was swallowed by the vast sleeping city. She did not scream his name to the heavens. She gathered his head into her lap, rocking back and forth, her tears falling onto his cold cheeks. This was their reunion, not in a sun-drenched field beyond the city walls, but here in the frozen dirt, with the scent of dead basil and betrayal hanging in the air. He didn't kiss her lips. He confessed his eternal silence through the terrible, perfect stillness of his body. The passion they had shared was now a ghost, the future he had promised now a grave. With a strength she did not know she possessed, she carried his head back to her chambers, wrapping it in her finest silken shawl. She knew she could not keep him like this, not for long. But she could not bear to give him back to the earth, to the brothers who had murdered him. An old, half-remembered story surfaced in her grief-stricken mind. A tale of a southern princess who had kept her lover near by planting basil over his buried head. So her tears would water the plant and her love would live on through its growth. The next day, she was a vision of composed madness. She obtained a large, beautiful pot of painted ceramic from the market. She filled it with the richest soil she could find, and with a reverence that was both sacred and horrifying, she placed Lorenzo's head within it, covering him with the dark, fertile earth. On the very top, she planted a single vibrant cutting of basil. She placed the pot on the balcony of her chamber, where the weak winter sun could find it. She tended to it with a fanatical devotion, watering it not with water, but with her endless silent tears. She would speak to it, her whispers carrying the secrets of her heart, the stories of their love, the poison of her hatred for her brothers. The basil plant, defying the season, grew with an unnatural lushness and fragrance, its leaves a deep, triumphant green. Her brothers noticed the change in her. They saw the strange, beautiful plant she cherished, the distant look in her eyes. They assumed it was a harmless eccentricity, the final broken ramblings of a woman whose spirit had been successfully crushed. They saw the pot of basil. They did not see the love, the vengeance, and the terrible blooming truth that grew within it. The bittersweet truth was this: she had lost him, but in the most profound and tragic way. He was finally, completely, and forever hers. The basil plant thrived with a vengeance that was both beautiful and horrifying. Its scent, once a mere fragrance from the garden below, now filled Lisabetta's chambers, a cloying sweet perfume that clung to her clothes, her hair, the very stones of her room. It was the smell of life growing from death, of her love made manifest in a cascade of green leaves. She spent her days seated beside the ornate pot, her fingers gently stroking the velvety leaves as if they were his cheek, her voice a constant, low murmur of shared memories and broken dreams. The outside world, the ongoing siege, her brother's scheming, the impending betrothal to Lord Malatesta, faded into a distant, meaningless murmur. Her entire world had shrunk to the circle of earth in the painted pot. Her brothers Ronaldo and Hugo, initially dismissed her obsession as a welcome distraction, proof of her broken spirit. But as the plant grew unnaturally large and fragrant, a creeping unease began to settle over them. Hugo, the more suspicious, took to watching her from doorways, his eyes narrowed. He noticed how she shielded the plant from the servants, how her conversations with it were not the ramblings of a madwoman, but seemed like intimate, one-sided discussions. The scent of the basil seemed to follow him through the house, a fragrant ghost accusing him. "It is not natural," Hugo hissed to Ronaldo one evening in the solar, the fire casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to mock their conspiracy. "That plant, the way she looks at it, it is as if she communes with it." "Let her have her plant, brother," Ronaldo replied, swirling his wine, though his own brow was furrowed. "It keeps her quiet. It keeps her from causing a scene before the Malatesta alliance is sealed. What harm is a pot of herbs?" "The harm is in the secret it holds," Hugo insisted, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "I feel it. There is a truth in that soil that we have buried. And she has dug it up." The climax came on a night of howling wind. Drawn by a morbid, irresistible compulsion, Hugo waited until the household slept and slipped into his sister's chamber. The room was dark, lit only by the embers in the hearth and a sliver of moon through the balcony arch. Lisabetta was asleep in her chair, her head resting against the pot, one hand possessively draped over the basil's thriving stems. The scent was overwhelming here, a sweet, suffocating shroud. Moving with a thief's silence, Hugo approached the pot. His heart hammered a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He saw the intensity of his sister's attachment, the peaceful expression on her sleeping face, an expression she had not worn since Lorenzo's disappearance. A cold certainty gripped him. He had to know. He had to be sure. He reached out, his fingers closing not around a leaf, but around the base of the main stem. With a sudden brutal wrench, he pulled the entire plant from the soil. The roots came up, tangled and thick, clumps of dark earth falling away. And there, nestled in the root ball, caught in the flickering firelight, was something pale and smooth, a fragment of silk from the shroud. And then he saw it, a lock of dark hair, still clinging to a piece of skull, the earth falling away to reveal the empty socket of an eye. Hugo stumbled back with a choked gasp, the uprooted plant falling from his nerveless fingers. The basil, now severed from its terrible sustenance, seemed to wilt instantly in his hand, its triumphant fragrance turning to the smell of rot. Lisabetta awoke. She did not need to see the uprooted plant in her brother's hand or the horror on his face. She saw the violated soil, the exposed truth. A sound tore from her, not of grief but of pure, undiluted rage. She flew at him, her nails scratching at his face, her strength fueled by a decade of love and a season of despair. "You took him from me once," she screamed, her voice raw. "You will not take him from me again." The commotion brought Ronaldo and guards rushing into the room. The scene that met them was one from a nightmare. Hugo, bleeding and horrified, the wilting basil on the floor, and their sister, a vengeful fury, guarding a pot that now clearly contained the remains of the man they had murdered. The truth was out. The secret was exposed. There would be no betrothal to Malatesta. There would be no alliance. The house of Lamberti was forever stained by this grotesque discovery. Lisabetta did not care. As her brother stared in stunned, revolted silence, she sank to her knees. Gently, with a tenderness that was more devastating than any scream, she began to gather the soil, carefully covering the horror they had uncovered, trying to rebuild the sacred tomb she had made for her love. He didn't hold her. His silence confessed an eternal devotion through the earth that now, finally, would be his true and lasting resting place. The physical and emotional climax had passed, leaving only devastation in its wake. They locked her in her chamber after that, but the damage was done. The story, in whispers and horrified gasps, seeped from the house into the city. The tale of the merchant's daughter and her pot of basil became a legend, a warning, and a song of a love so fierce it defied even death. Lisabetta never spoke again. She faded slowly, like the uprooted basil, her life force inextricably tied to the love she had buried in that pot. She had lost him twice, first to her brother's ambition, and then to their fear. The bittersweet note that lingered was this. In her desperate act of preservation, she had created a monument to their love that would outlive them all. A tragic, beautiful story woven into the very fabric of the city's soul. Her love had been a seed planted in darkness, and from it had grown not a future, but a legend. And so the basil wilted, its secret laid bare, and a love that defied death became a legend etched in sorrow. Lisabetta's heart, like the roots of the plant, remained forever tangled with Lorenzo's memory. If this haunting tale of a love that refused to die, even in the face of betrayal and death, has captivated your heart, then the echoes of our stories are meant for you. Join the court of Velvet Valor. Subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you never miss a new chronicle. Here you will find more full-length romantasy audiobooks where passion burns brighter than any funeral pyre, and love leaves an indelible mark on the world. We want to hear your voice in this tragic ballad. Tell us in the comments, was Lisabetta's act one of profound love or devastating madness? Could such a love ever truly be buried? If you believe that the most powerful stories are those carved from both heartbreak and devotion, let a like be your vow. It helps us continue to bring you these unforgettable tales of passion, tragedy, and the ghosts of love that never fade. Thank you for listening. Until the next tale from the world of Velvet Valor Romantasy Audiobook.